equals 0 are alpha and beta, find an equation whose roots are 1 over alpha, comma 1 over beta. So what happens is the same story. First get the sum and the products. So I've got the equation as 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0. Check, is x squared having a coefficient of 1? Good, no. It is having a coefficient of 2. Divide out by 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. So we are getting x squared plus 3 out of 2x minus 1 equals 0. Then from there, get what we call sum of roots. Sum of roots. Sum of roots, which we are calling alpha plus beta, which is already negative 3 out of 2. We also get the product of roots, which we are calling alpha beta, which is already negative 1. Then from there, we go ahead and look at the sum of the new roots. Because the first part A, we are starting with part A. Part A is 1 over alpha, the new roots, comma, 1 over beta. Can we get the sum of new roots? Let's get sum of new roots. Sum of new roots. Sum of new roots are going to be, the sum of new roots are going to be, we are going to add them. So it's going to be 1 out of alpha plus 1 out of beta. So this one becomes alpha beta. Alpha beta divided by alpha, I'm getting beta. So beta plus alpha beta divided by beta, we get alpha times 1 that. So we are coming out with alpha plus beta all over alpha beta. Do we know alpha plus beta? Alpha plus beta is already negative 3 out of 2. So we are getting negative 3 out of 2 divided by negative 1. So it will become automatically 3 out of 2 as the sum of the new roots. We also go ahead and we also get the product of the new roots. So also get product of new roots. Product of new roots, automatically you multiply the 2, 1 over alpha times 1 over beta, which becomes 1 out of alpha beta. Do we know alpha beta? Alpha beta is already negative 1. So we say 1 divided by negative 1, which becomes negative 1. So we write our equation, which is given as x squared minus sum of roots x plus the product equals 0. So this becomes x squared minus, do we know our sum? Our sum is already 3 out of 2 x. Our product is already negative 1 plus negative 1 equals 0. So what is common? What is common is the LCM is 2 multiplied out by 2. So we are coming out with 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 equals 0. So this is the equation which has come out after given the new roots which we have. So we are now moving to part B. We are going to go to part B and we'll also see which kind of an equation is going to come out when you are having those related roots. So our part B is alpha squared plus 1 comma beta squared plus 1. So what is the first step? Still the same story. Look at the sum of the new roots. Sum of the new roots. So we are looking at the sum of new roots. Sum of new roots. Sum of new roots, you add the 2. It's going to be alpha squared plus 1 plus beta squared plus 1. So what we're going to do is that we are going to collect those ones with the square near together. So this one is going to be alpha squared plus beta squared then plus 2. So do we know alpha squared plus beta squared? alpha squared plus beta squared is an identity which we know. We easily bring in that identity is alpha plus beta, the whole of it squared, minus 2 alpha beta, then plus 2. Do we know alpha plus beta? Alpha plus beta is automatically negative 3 out of 2, and alpha beta is negative 1. So we substitute them there. So this becomes negative 3 out of 2, the whole of it squared, minus 2 into negative 1 plus 2. So this one becomes 9 out of 4. A negative is a negative positive, then plus a 4. So we get the LCM. So our LCM is already 4. So 4 divided by 4, you get 1. Then 1 times a 9, you get a 9. Then we shall have 4 divided by 1, you get a 4. Times a 4, you get 16. Then we shall say 16 plus a 9. We shall automatically come out with what we call a 24. We shall come out with 24. So after coming out with 24, this is 20, not 24, it will be 25 out of 4. It will be 25 out of 4. When you say 9 plus 16, you are coming out with a 25 out of 4 as the sum of new roots. We'll also look at the product of new roots. Product of new roots. We are going to multiply those two. We are going to say alpha squared plus 1 again into beta squared plus 1. We open the brackets. This one is going to be alpha squared beta squared, we are multiplying, plus alpha squared plus beta squared plus 1. So we are moving on. This is the same as alpha beta, the whole of it squared, plus, this one is an identity which we know, alpha plus beta squared minus 2 alpha beta, then plus 1. Do we know alpha beta? Alpha beta is already given as a negative 1 squared, plus what is alpha plus beta is already negative 3 out of 2, the whole of it squared, minus 2 into negative 1, then plus 1. So we go ahead and expand it very well. Negative 1 squared, you're getting 1 plus 9 out of 4 plus, this is a 2, then that one is already 3. We are coming out with 4 plus 9 out of 4. So this is 16 plus 9. We are coming out with also 25 out of 4 as the product of the new roots. So after coming out with that kind of a number, with the product of that kind of a number, then automatically we are going to substitute in our equation. Our formula, which we said is given as, our equation is given as x squared minus sum of roots x plus the product equals 0. So do we know our sum of the roots is already 25 out of 4. So we are getting x squared minus 25 out of 4 x plus also our product is also 25 out of 4 equals 0. So what is the LCM? The LCM is 4. Multiply out by 4 throughout. So we are getting 4x squared minus 25x plus 25 equals 0. Then there you have already achieved your answer. Let's look at part C, which is the last part on that number. Then we shall first go for a commercial break. That is part C. The new roots also get the sum of new roots, sum of new roots, which are alpha minus 1 plus beta minus 1. So correct like term, this is alpha plus beta, then minus 2. Do we know alpha plus beta? Alpha plus beta is already given as negative 3 out of 2. Negative 3 out of 2, then minus 2. We find the LCM. So after getting the lowest common multiple, we shall come out with negative 7 out of 2 after applying the idea of the LCM. Then we also get the product of the new roots. Product of new roots. Product of new roots, it is automatically going to multiply the 2. It will be alpha minus 1 into beta minus 1. So we are using layman's understanding. How do we expand this? This one is going to become alpha times beta. You're going to have alpha beta minus alpha minus beta, then plus 1. So we collect out the negative sign. Alpha beta minus alpha plus beta, then plus 1. Do we know alpha beta? Alpha beta is already negative 1. Minus, do we know alpha plus beta is already negative 3 out of 2, then plus 1. So when you try to collect like terms, a negative and a negative, negative 1 goes with a positive 1, and negative times a negative, we are remaining with 3 out of 2 as the product of the new roots. Then from there, we are free now to substituting in our formula, which I have said that for you to get an equation, we are going to say x squared minus, we are going to have what we call x squared minus sum of roots x plus the product equals 0. So we are having the x squared minus, what is our sum? Our sum is already negative 7 out of 2x, then plus 3 out of 2 equals 0. So can we open very well by even multiplying so out by the LCM? So we are going to have 2x squared, a negative is a negative, we are coming out with plus 7x, then plus 3 equals 0. You will have already come out with your clear solution on that. That's how we form equations. That's how we form equations when you are given the new roots. What is important for you, as I have said, that you need to first get the sum of the new roots, also go ahead and get the product of the new roots, and get used with the identities which are there. So we are going to look at example 5. Example 5. If one root of the equation, ax squared plus bx plus equals 0 is twice the other, show that 2b squared equals 9ac. So here we are now proving to this that if one root of the equation, that means you have been given the roots as alpha and what? And beta. But this time now they have said if one root of the equation, just means out of the two roots is alpha and beta, choose one. So that's the interpretation, which is not that if one root of the equation, we have been saying that the roots of the equation are alpha and beta. Now for this case we are saying that if one root of the equation, that means you can choose one root to be alpha, then another one can be, I have said, is twice the other. That means the second will be twice alpha. That's the first interpretation for you to note with the roots. These are the roots. So they have said that they are the roots of the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Before you proceed, first understand, is x squared having a coefficient of 1, that the coefficient is not 1. What we're going to do, we are going to first divide by a to create a coefficient of 1. So, can we divide by a, divide by a, divide by a, by a. So, we are remaining with x squared plus b out of a, x plus c out of a equals 0. So, can we look at the product of these roots? What is the sum of roots? You can start with the sum. Sum of roots. Sum of roots. These roots, we are going to have alpha plus twice alpha equals, we equate this one. What is it going to be? It's going to be negative b over a. Alpha plus 2 alpha, what are you coming out with? You're coming with 3 alpha equals negative b out of a. So make alpha the subject of the formula. That means you're going to divide this out by 3. So can we divide by 3? It is going to become negative b out of 3a. I can say this is equation star. We'll also look at the product of the roots. So can we look at the product of roots? Product of roots, we are going to multiply. It means we are going to say alpha times 2 alpha, which is equal to, what is the product here? Is going to be c out of a. Alpha times 2 alpha, automatically we are getting 2 alpha squared, which is equal to c out of a. Then I can say this is equation hash. Then you can say put star in hash. Put star in hash. So, do we know our alpha, which is already equation star? Where you see alpha, put on that one. So, it's going to be 2 into negative b out of 3a, the whole of it squared, equals